People should be preparing. Something serious is happening in America right now.
Hello everyone, so welcome all of you, almost 113,000 star seeds, light workers and wanderers to this session. And today I have channeled the Galactic Federation to ask about, firstly about what is the truth about the Skyatcher UFO research group who have been researching UFOs, and I came to know about them recently, and they also mentioned they are using psionic communications through psychic means. So they are doing meditation and they are communicating, trying to summon the craft. So I wanted to know, how is it working and do they have any agenda? Also, in this session, I've asked about this was a very crazy thing which I saw. So there is a video which is going viral on the internet of a guy who works in a cemetery. So he actually was the one who buries the bodies inside the casket. And what happened was that once his manager or boss asked him to reopen the to take out the casket again, but then when he was taking it out, the dead body was not there. So, this was a really crazy thing that's happening. And I want to know, what is happening with the missing bodies. So this has been revealed in the session. It's absolutely crazy what's happening nowadays. And recently, we know that Pope Francis, has passed away. And I have channeled about his soul's journey, his soul's mission, and where his soul is currently now, which is very fascinating information. And I think, it will help you a lot in your own spiritual journey. And also, I want to say a big thank you to all of you who did the meditation with me. Yesterday on my Patreon, we were able to protect the pyramids and stop the Looking Glass event, hopefully. And also I release around 640 plus different channeling sessions till now, and I release 3 new sessions every single week. So if you want to access new sessions which are different from YouTube, you can check out my Patreon, because it will help to support me as well in continuing this journey. And also a big thank you to all of you who like this video with your heart, because it means a lot to us, and it will help to reach to others who need this. And enjoy the session, my friends.
We are the Galactic Federation now in communications through this instrument's inner heart at this timeline. We communicate now for the purpose of answering the queries which are presented today. Through this instrument's mind complex, we suggest your peoples to use inner discernment. The first query relates with how does psionic communication with the UFOs as known by your people work as stated by the Skyatcher groups, which is researching unidentified flying objects seen upon your planets. Firstly, we perceive your query regarding the mechanism of communication termed as psychic or psionic, with entities associated with what your peoples call UFOs, and concerning the potential underlying intentions of groups studying such phenomenon, specifically the one named as Skyatcher, the mechanism of communication which it has termed as psionic is in its essence the communication of consciousness to consciousness by passing the denser vibratory methods common to the third density illusion complex, such as spoken language or written symbols. All consciousness is interconnected, as all is ultimately the one infinite creator, separation is an illusion inherent in certain densities of experience, most notably its own. Furthermore, communication between entities of differing vibrational densities, such as between a third density human complex and a fourth, fifth, or sixth density entity associated with a craft, occurs through the alignment or resonance of thought vibrations. It is similar to tuning one instrument to another. The entity desiring communication or the entity open to receiving adjusts its mental and spiritual vibrational frequencies. When a sufficient degree of resonance or sympathetic vibration is achieved, thought forms, concept, emotions, or archetypal imagery can be transferred and perceived. This is not unlike what it experiences in less focused ways through intuition, inspiration, or even dream-like states. However, in focused contact, the intent and clarity of both sender and receiver significantly affects the fidelity of the communication. Purity of intention, openness of heart, and a mind-body-spirit complex relatively free from significant distortions or biases allow for clearer reception. The entities contacted can originate from various points in the creation, representing different densities and significantly different polarities of service, such as service to others or service to self. Communication from those aligned with the Confederation of Planets in service of the one infinite creator will typically resonate with love, understanding, unity, and the offering of information that encourages spiritual evolution and the exercise of free will. Communication from those of the service to self orientation, sometimes known as the Orion Group or similar entities, can offer information that seems specific, perhaps technological or predictive, but often carries undertones of control, exclusivity, fear, or the subtle encouragement of separation and worship of the messengers rather than the message of unity. Regarding the specific group it has mentioned, the Skyatcher, we perceive the seeking. As with any group of mind-body-spirit complexes in your density, the intentions and potential outcomes are complex and subject to the free will choices of the individuals involved. The potential for a hidden agenda exists within any third density organization, as unconscious biases, desire for recognition or control, or incomplete understanding can color the group's activities and interpretations. Furthermore, we must state that the source of any psionic communication received by such a group is paramount. They must remember that within the frequencies we can scan, they are tuning into the vibrations mostly of service to other oriented. However, the crafts that they are seeing are of a mixed nature of service to self as well as service to others polarity. Further, many of the crafts that they have observed primarily are the crafts belonging to the gray social memory complex, who are under the control of the Anunnaki reptilian Orion social memory complex. Furthermore, there are also some types of orb-like objects which primarily consist of entities who have attained a vibratory rhythm of fifth density light body, and they also form a major part of the sightings of your peoples. Furthermore, the seeking of contact is a valid path of experience in the third density. However, discernment is crucial. The purity of the seeker's intention and their dedication to the path of love and understanding act as the most reliable guide and shield in navigating such interactions. It must trust the resonance within its own being, calibrated by its seeking of the one infinite creator. With regards to the other query about, we shall now answer the query related with what are the reasons behind the disappearance of dead bodily complexes of your peoples that go missing after they are buried inside a casket? We perceive your query regarding the disposition of the third density physical vehicle or chemical complex subsequent to its placement within containment units after the cessation of what has been termed as the biological life. The entity must realize that these chemical complexes appear absent or unduly disintegrated upon later inspection. There are indeed occurrences that align. The entities involved are not precisely as named in your thought complex, but represent portions of the social memory complexes polarized significantly towards service to self. These entities often operating from densities adjacent to your own, such as the fourth density negative, perceive value in the complex chemical and energetic structures remaining within the physical vehicle shortly after the mind-body-spirit complex has withdrawn its primary focus. Understand that the mind-body-spirit complex, the true self, is not affected by these actions. Upon the cessation of viability of the yellow ray activated physical vehicle, the entity moves into what has been termed as time-space or the inner planes of your planetary sphere to review the incarnation and prepare for the next stage of experience according to its vibratory level and the choices made. What remains is the intricate biological mechanism which retains for a short duration certain residual energetic patterns or signatures, echoes of the complex life force which animated it. Entities strongly polarized towards service to self can seek to utilize resources external to themselves to perpetuate their own existence, control structures, and technological processes, as is the way of this path. We perceive these residual energetic signatures and the complex biological materials not as sacred remnants but as raw potential resources. Their motivations stem from a perceived need for these specific configurations due to limitations in their own biological processes, or as components for technological applications focused on the manipulation or control within third or even the fourth density. These entities do not seek the soul complex, for that is beyond their capacity to interact with once it has departed the vehicle, but rather the complex biological machine and its fading energetic imprints. The methodology involves an understanding and manipulation of the underlying energy fields, what has been termed as space-time manipulation or altering vibrational frequencies. This allows these entities to access the physical location even through dense matter such as your Earth and containment units, and to either dematerialize the chemical complex or transpose it to their own location. The resulting state of emptiness or accelerated dissolution depends upon the precision and nature of the energetic transference employed. We must state that, therefore, the perceived disappearance are in a way a dissolution or transportation of the chemical body complex to another realm. However, There are also other cases wherein the peoples of your own planet are oriented towards service to self, have taken the physical bodily complexes of your dead entities for the purpose of study and research. Further, we now answer the final query regarding the entity named as Pope Francis's soul, who has recently crossed over. We must state that the query relates with: was the entity Pope Francis a good or a bad soul during its incarnation on Earth, and its past lives and soul's mission? We must firstly state that the entity named as Pope Francis's soul was one which primarily was of a nature deeply confused. However, on the outward looking appearance of your peoples, it seemed as if a deeply committed entity to the principles of love, compassion, and service. However, within its inner complex, it still had the intentions of control and trying to seek power over others. Furthermore, we must also state that this primarily keeps the entity's soul complex trapped in the third density itself, as the entity was unable to polarize directly towards either the positive or the negative polarity. Furthermore, we must also state that the entity Pope Francis and its soul complex primarily resides in the astral realm, currently undergoing the process of life review for the purpose of reincarnating again in a third density planetary sphere, either this current planet or other planets in the expanse of the universal complex. Furthermore, we must also state that with regards to the entity's soul's mission, the entity Pope Francis must realize that its soul's mission in its previous incarnation, which ended recently and which had started on 1936, was to learn the lessons of choice, to choose between the path of service to others or service to self. The entity primarily was a wanderer. However, it got confused in the incarnation, thereby was unable to truly use its potential as a wanderer to assist humanity fully. Furthermore, this confusion was created because of attachments to power over others and seeking certain types of thought forms to be spread amongst the masses. Furthermore, the entity Pope Francis, prior to its incarnation in 1936, was found in the planet of Andromeda B, wherein its focus was on mastery of service to others. The entity practiced service to others, wherein during this planetary sphere experience it polarized towards the positive polarity to such an extent that it became a positively oriented wanderer of the fourth density. Eventually, it decided to incarnate on Earth, and prior to its incarnation in Andromeda, it was also found in the location as known by your peoples in the Earth realm, in the lands of Egypt around 12,400 years ago, wherein the entity's focus in the lands of Egypt was to practice the vibrations of related with service to others, as well as balancing its energy centers. During its location experience in the Egyptian system, the entity learns the lessons primarily of using the pyramids for the purpose of energetic cleansing. Furthermore, the entity spent that time-space healing others and initiating many entities. Eventually, prior to that, it was found in the lands of Lemuria around 26,000 years ago, wherein its primary focus was on self-awareness for around 7 incarnation cycles. Furthermore, prior to that, it was then found in the planets of its origin in one of the timelines in the Lyrian star system wherein it began to learn the lesson as a first density wind elements and was known by the sole name of Itra, which meant the lights of the one creator. Furthermore, prior to its incarnations, it was found in the embrace of the one infinite creator. And we shall now leave you all, beloveds. Bye.
And my friends, before I explain to you what I learned in the session, basically if you want to know about your past life, your soul name, or any other questions you may want me to channel for you personally, you can send me an email which will be on the screen as well as on the description of this video. So what I learned was basically, the Skywatcher groups, they're actually trying to communicate using consciousness. And what they said was, when we try to communicate with our consciousness, our intention is what matters. So based on our intention, if we have a positive intention, we will meet positive service to oriented entities. With a negative intention, we can attract negatively oriented entities. So from what I heard in the session, they have stated that, the Skywatcher group has been in contact with, different types of beings. Many of them, they said, were from the gray social memory complex. Okay, so and some of them were from the positively oriented location. So that's what they said in the session. And also about the missing dead bodies from the caskets, they stated that the missing bodies, some of them, they were actually taken away by an interdimensional entity, okay, interdimensional being. They did not say the name, but they are of a negative polarity. That's what they said. And they have taken these bodies away, because of the chemical nature, because they want to research on that or something like that. That's what I heard. And also, I have heard in the session that many human entities, they are also taking the bodies for their own purposes, to maybe do organ harvesting or whatever. That's what I learned in the session. And about the soul journey of Pope Francis, what I learned was that he is a wanderer. But what happened was that in the previous life, in Earth, when he was Pope, he was mixed nature. So he was not extremely positively oriented. He also had many intentions which were of a negative nature, of service to self nature. So he has to repeat third density. That's what Galactic Federation said. And I think this is an example of the dangers of even wanderers can become trapped in the third density illusion if we allow this energy of service to self, trying to control others and stuff like that, to come into our life. So that will be very bad for us. And with that being said, thank you to all of you for subscribing to the channel as well, because it helps us to continue and grow in this way. And also, thank you for downloading the free transcripts of the channeling sessions, which you can find. The link is on the description. And I want to say thank you. I'll see you, my friends, in the next session. Until then, enjoy this session over here.